thought so? Well, we know the SANFL Grand Final is on this weekend. Norwood v North Adelaide. It will be a spectacular game. So we often get to talk to the players, and one of our very special guests often joins us, Shane Harris, of course, the coach of the umpires in the SANFL. Corey Bowen, of course, will be umpiring on the day. We thought we'd get a feel for what it's like coming into that game. So appreciate you coming in, guys. I want to start this one with you first, Shana. Could we just talk about before we went on air? I was listening to one of the coaches give an address last night to his playing group, and he was saying it's a big weekend. There's going to be some disappointment. Don't let it impact on the group. What's it like for you, mate, to have to ring an umpire and say to him, "You're not going to get a game"? Because it's the hardest thing for a coach.
Yeah, it's really tough, Phil, and especially when the umpires, when you get down to your last 5 or 6 umpires, there's not much in it, and it's the worst time of the season for me as a coach, but I imagine football coaches be exactly the same. You get on the phone and you just got to do it, and then after the game's over, end of season reviews, we'll sit down and have a chat and make sure that those little things that you missed out on during the year, we don't miss out again.
Right, let me stretch it a little bit further for you, mate. What about as a father when you've got to ring your son, who's an umpire, and you've got to tell him that he's missed out? Is that possibly the worst ever that you've had to do?
Yeah, it's been the toughest week. I haven't cried for a long while, Phil. Yep. There you go. It was really tough, and but at the end of the day, there was 3 other umpires better than him, and at the end of the day, it's a job for me, and I treasure all my umpires, and he's just one of them, and happened to be a tough moment.
No, hey, Corey, mate,
I was going to say, Corey, it must be so exciting. 40,000 people. To be part of that is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it will be. This is my 7th grand final, so I'm really looking forward to it. Like the phone call until yesterday morning, you don't know you've got it because I had the weekend off. I didn't umpire the prelims, so it's a whole weekend of just waiting and hoping. You've had a good year, but until you get that phone call, you don't know. So the moment you get it, you're ecstatic, and I'm really pumped for it.
Why the weekend off?
Got to rest me up. I reckon I'm old. You got to keep the legs, look after the legs. I don't know. No, that's how Shane's normally done it. He's always had maybe 1 or 2 guys miss the prelim week, so you sort of.
Does that give you an idea that you might get the GF, or does that think, hang on, he's got me?
Yes, sort of. But there's always about 3 or 4 of us that don't do the prelim that are probably in the mix. So that's why you still got in the back of your mind. You're never 100% sure.
It's an interesting one, Tony, that Corey touches on. Do you do that? Do you sit and go, I need to rest a couple of guys? Because the coaches do it with the players. They try and rest them if they can. Is it the same strategy?
No, Phil, you're spot on. Yeah, exactly the same. And generally it's the last 5 or 6 umpires. We start with 10, and the last 5 or 6 we really nurture and make sure they're going to be spot on for the grand final. And also the preliminary final was a bit of a runoff. The best one out of the preliminary final was going to go in and one was going to sit.
Oh, wow.
So they don't know that at the time, but
it's their prelim.
Yeah, correct. And what it does is, I think, Phil, and it's similar to a footballer, it brings the best out of them.
Yep.
And it also puts them into a different sphere of pressure. Whether they bring it on themselves and they can overreact sometimes or miss obvious frees that we need to get. So, and you don't want that in a grand final. So if you get through that phase, you're pretty well already set.
Mate, I have to ask you this because you're sitting there. You're sitting right in front of me again.
Oh, no.
I have to ask you this because there's been a lot of press about the Adelaide
that's it for us.
We might as well more so the Crows, but the Crows have been complaining that they're getting a raw deal. Basically, they're getting nothing in the SANFL, and they're saying Port Adelaide's the same. I'm not so sure about that. But there is a big differential between the 2 AFL clubs and then your 3rd club, which is Norwood, I think, minus 80 odd, compared to minus 500 up here with the 2 AFL clubs. There's got to be reasons for that, because there's no way in the wide world that you would tell umpires to go out there and umpire against these 2 clubs. So there's got to be reasons for that, because it is a big differential.
Yeah, like we discussed before, Barry, it's interesting. I've got my philosophies on it. We as a group don't even discuss it. Stats-wise, we don't keep stats. We're not really interested. And interesting from an umpiring perspective on the field, things happen that fast. You don't even realise who you've actually paid the free kick for until they actually disperse, or that split second after, that's a Port free kick or that's a Norwood free kick. So you don't really know at the time. So, and there's other areas where clubs will get a bit excited about not enough free kicks in their forward line compared to another side. at the end of the day, we as a group don't even discuss it.
Are those teams play a little bit differently to the SANFL sides? I've watched it quite a bit this year, the SANFL, and I have noticed the structure of your Power and the Crows seem to be fractionally differently, whether it's stronger bodies, they're full time. They just seem to play a bit of a different game.
I think that's my theory, Greg. I think they're full-time athletes, so they're stronger, they're faster, they're fitter. They hit the ball harder, hit the man harder, and faster. So, and the SANFL sides are part-time people, and they're just a fraction off that. So, they're going to give away, I think, more free kicks playing at that pace against. I guess, and that's nothing against the SANFL sites that only train, part-time, that aren't as quick and as fast. So I think human nature tells me that free kicks are going to be given away because of that. And that might be 5 or 6 a game.
I reckon there'd be a differential in other stats too if you went and had a look. If you were pushing a wheelbarrow, you could go, or whatever, Anyway, doesn't it? Hey, Corey, I want to ask you this question, mate. 7th grand final for you. They talk about it in the footy world. You play 40 or 50 games before you're AFL hardened. You play 5 or 6 finals games before you get the feel for it. Is it different 1 to 7 for you? Are you a lot calmer? Do you find you've matured over the journey of the 7 finals?
Yeah, I would say exactly that. I've definitely matured over the journey. So come Sunday, I'll probably be excited. A little bit few nerves, probably before the first bounce. But once you get out there and once you blow the whistle 1 or 2 times, it's all back to normal, and you normally soak up the atmosphere before you go out there. I can remember the first grand final. I reckon I was still on edge in the last quarter, even though I think Central's back then were up by about 10 goals. So these days it's just another game really. Compared to a home and away game, I don't get nervous in those, but I will have a few nerves on Sunday.
Yep. Do you have a favourite, mate? Which grand final sticks out to you as a wow factor?
Well, there's probably 2 that I still debate. So I had 2017, which was Sturton Port, because it was 1 point, it was close. For that day, you're concentrating, focused for the whole time until that final siren. But then the other one that's probably the most enjoyable one as to umpire was the 2018, which was obviously North back then, because it was a shootout. Fantastic game. So if they can recapture that sort of game on the weekend, it'll be just fantastic.
Be brilliant.
Mate, do you ever think about keeping a book of advice you're giving out on the ground of all these experts that know how to umpire? Mate, or have you ever really umpiring a game and heard a comment and you go, I need to write that one down, that was a cracker.
You do get a few, but a lot of them are very similar and all the same. I've heard that one before, but every now and then you do get a new one, which is good.
Do you get the big bounce on the...
No, so I toss it up these days.
He's a tosser.
So I'm a professional tosser.
He's a tosser.
Professional tosser. Give it the bounce up probably 10 years ago.
I reckon John Carl used that a few times in his day.
Going into the final though, Shane, as the coach, obviously the coach of the SANFL team, he's talking to his players how they want to perform. Are you in that mode before the game with the umpires?
Yeah, very, very much so, but short and sharp. Yep. We've got our team rules that we stick to as well, and it's basically about that. And really, like Corey said, once you've blown the whistle a couple of times, so the first 10 minutes is our focus. Get all players aligned to the footy. If they crash in and want the footy, don't pay any 50-50 stuff. Let them go. Just let them play footy. It's all about the players. And, like we said, 2018, if we end up with another game like that, it'll be, it'll be unusual for
the distance now for you, Corey. The speed of the game's gone up. Is the distance more, or it's just more explosive?
Probably more explosive. So we probably average around 12 Ks. So a few of the guys wear their GPS watches during games, and it's been around that 12 kilometre that we're running per match. So, but definitely more explosive.
Has the training changed much? Shane, you've been in this position for a long, long time, and the game's just evolved so much. Have you seen the actual builds and I suppose the training changed in the umpires' world as well?
Yes, Greg, I have, and because we've got professional physical performance managers, we're very similar to a footy club. We get the best information, albeit we've got a new guy in at the moment that hasn't had much to do with umpiring, but he's starting to gain the knowledge of the type of running they do and all that. So, we're really critical to it. But generally, it's been pretty positive especially from an injury point of view. Injury point of view has been really low and really positive for us. So
excellent.
It'd be interesting, Greg. You talk about that when they go to 4 umpires.
Yep.
Where that brings that 12 or 13 Ks down. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I would have thought it would bring it down. There'd be at least 40,000 umpires there on Sunday.
Well,
I don't know why you have to run it all. Just listening to the crowd. Hey, well done, Corey, on the 7th, mate. It'll be a terrific game on the weekend, Shane. Always great to catch up with you, mate. And hope it's a terrific weekend for your boys as well. Bloody great effort being a dad to have to make that phone call to your son as well, mate. Stay with us. Still, a bit more to come.